There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea. It is a dark night on earth, and we're alone. Though, like being children again, we're grown. Living in the middle of nowhere, somehow far, we look for ourselves through the dark and past the buildings with protruded arch. We see corpses laid down in a half-lit mortuary. Demons haunt, phantoms bewildered, and spectres shadowy. Divine being wandering around, the only holy holy, the Almighty in different forms but not shapes. Yahweh, Jehovah, and Allah, some call it deity. Music can be heard, but with a miserable spontaneity. And the night, like a Frankenstein monster, spreading here and there, behind the hill, even mountain, in the sky, over the moon, like the great Satan. It's overwhelmingly covering them, me, she, and the place which is lost in an enormously colossal space. I am afraid in both senses, feeling fear and worried about what might happen. And there stands Sir Patrick Manson. And flies, mosquitoes, cockroaches, small bugs are all around while we have in our hands our coffee mugs. Next, we're babbling away in a foreign language with various mother tongues, a kind of pidgin or some different creoles, while we are playing a variety of roles. I am reciting the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, which, like a hard rock, has the proof of T.S. Eliot's baffling talk. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. And she's listening to me, as if I'm reading a fable. Then, like the other nights, we crawl under the cut fence slyly without letting the guards see us. It's fun for us to go and see the dead bodies in the mortuary. They look like lovely but wicked characters of a fairy story. They're muttering some mystifying but distracting mutter. One seems to say, "How dare she?" Another probably says, "What a provocative, lusty, leering look." The last sounds to be beefing up a terribly beastly book. Then she and me, or the separated we, giggle in an embarrassed but amused way. A guy comes to check the body of his wife. He looks at it coldly enough, and then murmurs something. While sobbing, he leaves the room, and then a spacious silence looms to change our mood and to prevent the doom by its shyness. But the people's destiny here is deadly sure, as we have become the upcoming guests, and we know towards death we faintly and softly like a foolish flood flow. Now it's time to get back to our place, with, of course, light and watchful steps and very gentle pace. She loves me reading Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, and Eliot is with us, behind the snag. Like a black flag he's moving to and fro, like a pendulum in an absent time. There will be time, there will be time, forcing his poem not to appear in a continual losing rhyme. iambic pentameter, then free verse, then blank form, sometimes no meter at all as a poetic literary norm. I love the guy. He is the master of brainstorm, to make things, arrange and then freely deform, while all of the lines wear the same uniform. And then they flow like a rebellious, tumultuous, unconstrained, and unquenchable storm. Now we both love the guy. He has been with us for a long time, while we read Wasteland, and then The Hollow Men. We didn't finish The Journey of the Magi, and I don't exactly know why. She laughs at me and sarcastically says, Alzheimer's. This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. Have you again forgotten my name? Her name, or my name, or none? Their names, proper names, and sometimes improper names like a foreign name. The same as Humpty Dumpty's name, authorized by Carol's name. Must a name mean something? Alice asked doubtfully. Of course it must, Humpty Dumpty said, with a short laugh. My name means the shape I am, and a good handsome shape it is too. With a name like yours, you might be any shape, almost. And now we are almost any shape, though our silhouettes look like apes. She feels cold now, but like all other nights, before going to a separate bed, she asks me if tomorrow night we'll go to the mortuary to spend our time. And I promise her once more, like all other nights, we well know that this is our lives. And every morning the arguments, like tedious streets, twist and turn while our hearts for a life outside here, out where everywhere is frost, yearn. Here is too hot, too much hot, and we internally, inside in where Martin exists, burn. We burn and earn what we can here learn. A sad story of a couple in a lost context, both in time and space. By the way, what time is it, and where did we have kids? I think young we were. Yes, I remember we were young like Blake's chimney sweeper, like Martin's Daddy of Abigail, whose killer was a tumor brain reaper. We were young. One professor of English literature, the other a splendid physics teacher. I mean, I think so. Or maybe not. Maybe someone else we both were. You know, it's a little bit blur, like a grubby, or better to say a murky, river. But I guess we didn't have a caregiver. There was only something wrong with my liver. In our voice there's now a conclusive quiver. Our hearts recently beat much quicker, and I feel most of the time like winter, while I am more in love with the old goddamn liquor. And she is more silent and suddenly more talkative, as if she is afraid of losing the remaining time. She well knows she is not any more in her prime. She does not know Latin, and I am reading the epigraph, which is a little bit odd, so I translate the part related to Guido de Montefeltro, who tried to fool God. She shrieks.
Are you sure he wants to fool my God?
No, dear, not yours. His God.
Whose God is his God?
He's the same God as everyone's God.
Oh, is he? Can he?
I doubt if he could, for he wouldn't be in the inferno now.
To hell with Dante. Of course, with a due bow.
And then we both laugh aloud and then say, wow, by which we genuinely mean a real wow, not a faked one, said by a politician, whose job is similar to a licensed and best beautician. They vow with awe and deceitfully say, wow, and then woefully break their vow with their know-how. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo.
Why Michelangelo, dear?
She asks. Oh, probably Eliot shows his knowledge of Renaissance art, I reply.
How about you, thou art?
Then we both laugh aloud, and I add, My dear, this is adopted from a poem by Jules Laforgue.
What for?
To get to the core.
What door?
No, dear, not door, but core.
Core of what?
The fact that women must be high class to talk about Renaissance art.
You mean they're smart?
Somehow, and Dante's Inferno also features lots of people who are smart in heart. Then some nurses come and stay with some people for a long time while I am reading some lines which have nursery rhyme and doesn't fit in with the intellectual subjects of famous painters. Then I see I have lost the last line and I can't remember where it was. I think it was at the end of a clause with a precise pause. She looks at me in a suspicious way and sarcastically says, Alzheimer's. This is a new word she has recently learned, and she likes to repeat it. And then we both laugh aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening.
What?
She suddenly interrupted. What? I asked by repetition.
That was not the line you were reading, old man.
It's not important what I was reading if you're an Eliot fan.
No, this is ridiculous. Read the same line you began.
Forget about that darn line. Let's have a new reading plan.
You never stick to what you plan. What is the use of a new plan?
Okay, darling, whatever.
By the way, how can fog be yellow?
My gosh, it's London fog. Honey, again, I should say it's not physics, it's literature.
Then why does literary meaning include lies with a famous writer's signature?
Don't you think I explained it many times before?
I think so. But how was it that the fog licked its tongue into the corners of the evening?
Listen, darling, it has its own literary meaning.
Funny. This fog has a back and a muzzle, and it licks and makes sudden leaps.
Good. You see, it's like a cat that even sometimes creeps.
So, what on earth is the idiot Eliot looking at?
Just a comparison between vigorous movement of the fog and a common house cat.
Is the fog wandering around like a cat wanders around a house? Is it that?
Yes. And finally, the fog gets tired and curls around the city houses to fall asleep.
You don't mean it's now the time for us to sleep?
Actually, this is what I mean. And then we both laugh aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. Then I read the next line silently to myself. And indeed there will be time, a reference to his coy mistress. And I was like the young man in Marvel's poem, trying to get her to sleep with me, but we're here all by our lonesome. We have to have separate rooms and beds, and we don't have our freedom. They think we may hurt ourselves and others, but I desperately need her next to me. One night she'll be with me, maybe, or not maybe, but really. It depends on the kind of adverbs of manner we use. Truly or probably. You know, you should be a linguist. But anyhow, had we but world enough and time, this coyness, lady, were no crime. Crime? But we don't have too much time. To hell with poems and the concept of rhyme. In reality, I need her as mine. And they're taking her away through a different line. I don't know where she goes, and every time I ask, she does not know. Once she told me something, and then she asked me while I completely forgot it. Blow. And like always, she mockingly said, Alzheimer's. Yeah? Alzheimer's. This is a new word she has recently learned, and she likes to repeat it. And then we both laughed aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. There will be time, but not for people who live here, Eliot. Time for all the works and days of hands. An allusion to works and days written by Hesiod, the Greek poet. But here we're living an erratic, absurd existence, and working for a living is not of paramount importance, as it is in Hesiod's works and days. We're checked, controlled, restrained, inhibited, and chaste, almost always. You know, an insignificant existence. And time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Here we don't even ask what they put as food on our plate. What question? Life here is from 8 to 7. Then with guards we're led to our heaven, the rooms that look like our dark dungeon or our mentally torturing chamber. In these rooms we look at the roof first, second the walls, then the floor until someone comes and we're nursed. Injections, opiates, so-called painkillers, tranquilizers after tranquilizers. And then you can hear the screams echoing in the big hall. Someone is dragged to somewhere we mostly don't know anything about. It is the way we're treated. Sometimes we're just seated. Some other times we're mildly heated. It happens that we can be cheated, or even by some unknown reasons, deleted. Many times here I was defeated. Repeated, and repeated. Then I am left alone, untreated. When someone complains, they immediately make him feel disquieted. But I am happy since she is with me, making this being again the genuine me. I like her giggling, her roaring guffaw, even her scornful snigger.
Will we go to the mortuary tonight again?
Yes, if we can escape.
We can. We change our shape.
Like guys in Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, darling. As if we're in our homes.
Then let's do it. It's fun, isn't it?
It is. Let's do it.
And then we both laugh aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. She still loves me, with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. For her, it's the life we share. As a pair, that sounds quite fair. For her, it's the sadness and happiness which is important, though we can't even well remember. Whether our wedding anniversary was in September, November, or December, we know that it was not in Denver. Who cares about calendar? We're stretched on the continuum of time through a long distance in such a way that date is not an issue or an assistance. Time is defined through the speed by which we can escape at night and get to the mortuary. Or as she defines, it's the matter of valency, since everything is just and only atom. From now towards a time in paradise when there were only two, Eve and Adam. Was it my morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin? Or was it Prufrock's? I think it was mine. No, it was his. Who cares? I have taught the things that are now part of me. I am myself like a poem or a famous story, a professor of fantasy. You see, too much imagination makes you feel lonely. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Recall that Guido de Montefeltro was also nervous about his prestige. Some men are like this. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse.
Do you really dare?
She asks suddenly. If you want, yes, darling. I say it lovingly.
Liar. Big liar. You've always been a liar.
If it's for love, it's justified. It's what you desire.
Oh, means justifies goals.
No, goals choose means, and even your roles.
You've been always good at talking, though not about science.
Talking is not for science, dear. It's for existence.
But how about guidance in existence?
What's wrong with you today? You look like a philosopher.
Someone like Bertrand Russell. I know you want me to be rather William Faulkner.
Oh, I like his sound and fury.
When there's lack of a sound judicial jury.
And then we both laugh aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. I hate Prufrock when he's about to enter the room to tell his love something, and then goes back down the stairs. I think he should tell her if he actually cares. And in spite of this, he tries to convince the reader that he's a wise man, with a lot of experience. He also tries to show that he's both curious and serious. What kind of curiosity or seriousness is it when you lose all your chances and you're left with an unanswered question? It does not sound like he has learned his lesson. Yes, he has survived evenings, mornings, afternoons, but he does not know as he claims. I doubt if he also knows anything about human pains, while his whole life is measured by coffee spoons, and he must shake all his ego cocoons. I know the voices dying with a dying fall.
Don't we go to the mortuary tonight?
She interrupted me again. We go, darling, we go, but it's too soon.
Okay, but what is dying for?
Oh, it's a reference to Shakespeare's famous play, if you recall.
The one you read to me in our trip when there was a beautiful moonlight?
Yes, dear. 12th night.
When the lovesick Count Orsino is listening to music that has a dying fall?
Sure, that's all.
Prufrock can only experience love at second or third hand, darling.
Yes, even he finally asks, so how should I presume, while he's parting. And then we both laugh aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. Now it's time to escape for a very short time and go to the mortuary, a wistfully whimsical place with the absence of God's grace, where you like to cover your whole face, where there's no trace of the people's past days. This is what human being, at the end of serving his God, pays, and then your heart for the dead ones grievously breaks. I don't know if the so-called God really loves us, or he hates his dull creatures, who find for their lives their own ways, but I think he may feel hurt when he sees his slaves, who lived since he wanted them to live, for certain years, being laid down as the dead who should answer questions which check their faiths. God is great. God is almighty. And it sounds as if we all know it already. We're here now. She twitters and titters, and I feverishly shiver. Oh gosh, again my liver, pain, and a little far-out fever. I try very hard to see the figure who is standing over a dead body. Like a lady who looked cocky. She is looking at the dead as if he is a zombie. And I have known the eyes already, known them all. It echoed in my mind like a reflecting sound in a big hall. The eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase, while you feel you are in an alcoholic haze.
Is he alive?
She asked, and we unwillingly laughed. No, ma'am, the big guy answered.
Why then is he gazing at me in such a rude way?
The guy, who is bored by his job and now likes to play, has to say, Maybe he's gay.
How do you know he may be a gay?
No, ma'am, I don't mean a gay. I mean he just feels gay.
Does a gay feel that he's a gay?
He may not, or he may.
What kind of feeling is feeling to be a gay?
The man now feels eerie about the lady and regrets what he said. Then he adds, A gay is a gay. He doesn't need to feel to be a gay, but he may feel gay.
To be a gay?
The man now is happy that the lady has gotten a part of the story. Yes, ma'am. Feeling gay because of being a gay.
What's useful in being a gay?
You should be a gay to know how a gay feels gay about being a gay.
Have you ever felt being a gay?
No, ma'am, I just feel being gay. And the conversation continues like talking of kids. And then we both laugh, this time not aloud, and a pause, and then a long silence. Now it is time to get back to our horizontally wide, cold and benumbed construction. It's too cold and we're running as if we're in a race. The guards are standing there all around the space. One of them looks with eagle eyes and a serious face. We feel anxious, nervous, suspicious, and very scared. The ambience by itself is threatening, as if we're from head to feet stared. As she is passing, one of the guys feels a kind of fleeting phantom in a state of flux. He immediately turns around and we get down with no pause. He comes closer, 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 till it's almost on the spot that someone calls his walkie-talkie, and he turns back.
Jesus,
she says, and looks at me aghast. And I am dumb, speechless, and abashed. We're safe, but it's better to wait, I say.
What for? Children are waiting for us.
She says. Children? Whose children?
Come on, don't be silly.
Darling, we don't have any child.
We have, if you mind.
Listen, dear, in that place we don't have any child, but maybe we left them behind.
But I remember they survived.
Survived? What?
The war.
Which war, darling?
War of Berlin.
No, it's Wall of Berlin.
Whatever. War of Berlin or Wall of France.
France? Why France? Why Wall of France?
Since it collapsed.
Okay. I see.
Aren't you missing them?
The war or the wall?
Crazy old man, none.
Oh, you mean our supposed son?
Not son, but daughters and sons.
With your permission, I doubt, since I can't remember any of them, daughter or son.
Alzheimer's.
This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. And then we both laugh, this time not aloud, and then a pause, and then a long silence. We have to wait for some time to let the guards pass the front door, for some minutes, of course. And while I'm in the ditch, I'm thinking about what she said. Children, sons and daughters. How about brothers and sisters? Do I have any father or mother? Gosh, I feel right now I am in need of my doctor, with injections, painkillers, and goddamn tranquilizers. I can't remember. I can't remember. I can't. My mind is on demand, but my brain gives no command. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways? She is right in calling him the idiot Eliot. But I think the blame shouldn't be put on Eliot. The whole thing is about J. Alfred Prufrock. He is like a rough rock, an empty hammock, and most of his actions are dumb luck. How can the eyes treat someone like a scientist treats an object? As if from head to toe, in a total sense, he's being carefully checked. He seems to be spooked by doctors and scientists. He's the subject of physical and mental anatomy, as he thinks. The image of a guy tied down and wriggling makes me really smile. And it's similar to the evening spreading out like a patient on an operating table, with no clout. It's Eliot, Thomas Stearns Eliot, born 26th of September, 1888. Now it's time to get into our caring alien place, to our horizontally wide, cold and benumbed construction. In a not quick movement, since we're not young, we get to the door, then inside, and with a quick hug, we go to one's separated, unknown for each other, room, feeling we're apparently able again to call the tune. Lying down in my bed, I continue reading Eliot. And I have known the arms already, known them all, arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight downed with light brown hair. No, it's not fair, Mr. Thomas Stearns. Women have names. They're Lauras, Marys and Janes. And they can't be arms or the beloved of Mr. James. What an insulting phrase. Worse than that, they are arms that are braceleted and white and bare. My goodness, to recall women just by their white and bare arms sounds unfair, but the following image of the lamplight is lovely. In the lamplight downed with light brown hair. Such a lamplight is very rare, unless your beloved's eyes and light brown hair glare, and you feel one, though you might look like a pair. More than that, you might feel, not smell, her perfume proliferating more and more in the air. Oh, goodness, this is platonic love that you can't share, even with your very own mind, let alone allowing others become aware of what you deeply, passionately, and affectionately care. What I am thinking about is not coming from olfactory sensory neurons. That can be felt even by morons. Mine is related to people's hearts, quite unlike Prufrock's. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Why digress on the scent of a woman's perfume whose name is not known? Mine is different from Prufrock's. It happens when your secret is unwillingly blown and your heart, God, your heart, you can't anymore own. It's hers. Through strong, unbreakable, perdurable, infrangible mental and emotional wires. It's hers until death comes to take her away and make your life grey, then dusky black, while to your desperateness you're back. After that you feel absolute darkness, while you're now almost heartless. Your heart is stolen, and you have stone instead, though you might still feel pity for others. This is when you hurt yourself many times, but you sound harmless. It's when the only visitors are the hungry vultures waiting for your carcass. It sounds sad. Yes, it is sad. But no, she must live until I am buried somewhere, far, of course, from this horizontally wide, cold and benumbed construction. I still remember once she had a mild concussion, and I was afraid of her life condition, but I think she had all the gods' and goddesses' protection, not to leave me with an everlasting obsession. She is still here with me in some unknown rooms. Once she told me it's room 60,000 with some twos, and I could understand. If I were her, I would say the similar number too. The thoughts and language here are unwillingly skewed. Even your cat has a different mew. My eyes are feeling heavy now. Tomorrow is going to be a great day, wow, and I don't know whether she'll again fall in her bathroom. And should I then presume, and how should I begin? Begin what, Eliot? Now I need sleeping. Maybe tomorrow with her about you we're talking. Maybe not. Maybe cut, hot, shot, a vodka shot, or a glass of very red wine. Like Jesus' blood. Oh, I'm losing my mind. Too many injections, painkillers, and too much tranquilizer, but I should presume or resume talks about our children. Tomorrow I'll be wiser. And then we both laugh, this time each alone, and a pause, and then a long silence. The moment I opened my eyes, I looked for the lines I left last night. Shall I say I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves, leaning out of windows? While I am reading, out of the blue she appears and asks,
"Was it at dusk or dawn? Through doors or windows?"
She teasingly asks. Could be both, dear, but how about saying good morning first?
I don't think you need it. Eliot has already quenched your thirst.
For what? Communication?
Yes. You always live with your books, no matter when or in which situation.
Do you feel jealous?
No. But should I feel joyous?
I am always with you, and you know that.
I doubt. There's always one of them with us, even when we chat.
How about your Einstein, Newton, Hawking, or Max Planck?
You always liked Hawking, didn't you?
Sure, for some other reason than physics, and you always liked Eliot, too.
I like these lunatic writers because I love you.
I love you, too, and don't forget we're one, not two.
Yes. You told me once that even God has gods and goddesses claiming his position.
You see, for our love there is no addition.
I hate it when you talk like a philosopher or a linguist.
But I like it when you talk like a crazy physicist.
Insulting language. Criminal. You should be taken to prison.
Aren't we already in this cold, monstrous dungeon? And then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. We go to the common room, or the gathering room as they call it. Everyone is doing something irrelevant to the mainstream of existence, though for every individual doing what he does has a sort of meaningful essence. We are all in a desolate, far-away manner representing idle people, the quintessence, like a thick mist which is on the edge of evanescence, under the pale kind of fluorescence. Some even having internal serious excrescence, though they may feel they can have convalescence. But there is no cure for them. They are cursed forever and ever, no matter if they have low IQ or they're cleverer. They are cursed, and they should be nursed. They are not so much harmful to others as they are to themselves, unless they can break their massive, concrete mental shells. the place for classifying and sorting out all their lost memories. Gosh, one's memory is not just and only their precious accessories. It includes all the directories, deliveries, and documentaries, even exemplary summaries. It's a catastrophe when memories become ephemeral, when everything becomes very temporal, when you had not one but several, while you have nothing in general. We are now called for lunch, a tasteless, calorie-controlled and cold scrap or junk, something looking like debris, with no time for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea. Then we drink our tea. This is our daily life, and let me be silent about our nights, lit by the very pale light, with joy out of sight, absence of civilized rite, and the sheets and curtains all in white, though we have phantoms and sometimes ghosts next to our side. I'm still reading the idiot Eliot, who is not so much in rhyme. But it's not a crime. You can yet be a poet with no meter or rhyme. I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. Yes, the crab is a perfect image that suits Prufrock's self-protection. It's a kind of lost reflection, or probably the inability of a long-term memory recollection, or it's the brain's incapability to have appropriate detection. Maybe it's looking for a kind of absent perfection. Whatever it is, it's one of Prufrock's imagined choices, or, linguistically speaking, selections. But I can't feel any connection between us and this projection.
What are you thinking about so deeply?
She suddenly asks. Nothing particular, I reply.
Liar. I know it's again one of the lines or literary lies.
No, dear, they're not lies. They're about lives.
Not real ones.
It depends on what you consider reality.
How many realities exist?
As many as we exist.
Again, one of your tautologies.
It's not tautology, though it can be one of the kinds of phraseologies.
Whatever. Do we go to the mortuary tonight?
Is it possible not to go every night? And then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. In the afternoon, once again, we're called for our medications, which makes us calm and sometimes numb when we have 3 to 4 injections. Then some of us watch a repeated movie with drowsy eyes, which makes us seem very gentle and wise. Some others feel they're flying in the skies, while around them they can hear the noise of flies. One is in the corner, sitting alone while she cries, and around her there are some old but nice guys, trying to console her for what they don't know anything about. These people here are all genuinely nice, and between them you can find very strong ties. While the evening and dusk are approaching, our hearts, hers and mine, beat faster, as if we're kind of secret broadcasters whose audience knows both forecasters, since their news is about a mortuary and the dead, the very dead, those who do not have a brain, but still may have a head. One is head of a company, the other head of a party, or head of office, and more importantly, head of English literature department. I can hear he is still reading James Joyce's Ulysses, the Irish novelist James Augustine Aloysius, who's a modernist avant-garde, an important author of the 20th century, a prodigy belonging to the literary treasury, with his strange style of stream of consciousness. What people here could have lost, though they even may lack the unconsciousness, they probably live at the level of critical subconsciousness. We're getting ready for our nocturnal trip. passing under the cut fence and reaching the dead building. When we get there, there is a mom crying over the dead body of her son. She is saying he shines like the sun. He's been killed by some crazy guy's gun, and he was too young. The same man who, with the other lady, the other night, had fun, is now embarrassed and speechless, and the words on his lips are none. We look at each other and remember some vague pictures of someone in our past, someone we may know at last. And I am aghast if she remembers anything when she asks,
"Isn't he like our son?"
"Which son? We didn't have any son."
We had, and he was killed by his brother's gun.
I was now shocked and terrified.
We tried hard to keep him alive, but he died.
I can't remember anything you're saying.
Alzheimer's. Goddamn Alzheimer's. Is it Alzheimer's?
This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. And then we didn't laugh, this time at all, and a pause, and then a long silence. I think it's now better to go, before the tears, like a disastrous flood, flow. It's now a long time ago, very long time ago. I don't know if now I have any ego, or id, but I may have some kind of super-ego that tries to escape the suffering and pains tuned by my life's depressing allegro. We run like prisoners escaping from the guards, passing through the two parallel but widely apathetic and spiritless yards, getting inside and separating like two unknown passers-by. Once again, we are in our horizontally wide, cold, and benumbed construction. And the afternoon, the evening, sleeps so peacefully, smoothed by long fingers, asleep, tired, or it malingers, stretched on the floor, here beside you and me. I'm missing her not once, but again and again in this half-lit room of my loneliness, though I like the way Prufrock is confused about time in his sleeplessness. His clock moves backward to the afternoon, then forward to the evening, like the movement of a pendulum of a clock which has its own mesmerizing meaning. Its job is timekeeping, regardless of its way of dreaming. For Prufrock, afternoon and evening are sleeping, just as its cat-like fog in the outside is napping. He wonders if he should wake the day up and make it follow up a certain question which is not yet clear, but later its form and content may appear. However, he has doubt, since the day is well asleep. In a way, no one can reap anything out of its dream. It is so quietly snoozing, as if it's being smoothed by long fingers. Not like men who are tired of being swingers, but like those who are spiritually peaceful figures. And this you, in Prufrock's words, is killing me. Who's this you? Though I am missing her too. She is in her 60,000 with some twos, so-called room. I feel sleepy now, and give Eliot a bow till the dawn, when we act on our duties based on the guards, the nurses, and the doctor's advice. Good night, darling, in the room 60,000 with some twos. Good night, not once, but twice. Here we're a couple, but look like a human slice. Good morning, Doc, one of the guys says politely. Oh, good morning, Mr. Nice, as some call him so. How are you today? I ask gently. Worse than yesterday. Come on, you say the same thing every day. Really? Okay then, the worst. Why is it not reversed? You could say the best. Never, ever such a thing can happen. Have a positive attitude. We're not broken. But we're beaten. In which game? In the game of not being tame. I see. Can't we play the game again? No, not at all. It's a once-and-for-all played game. And are we either the winner or the loser forever? Yes, Doc, and we can't be the winner, never, ever. It's bad, isn't it? Not so much for you. You are a poet. See you around, Mr. Nice. I nodded, like a doll. See you not soon, Doc. He smiled, and he left me in the middle of the big hall. I open my book now and start reading the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, which is somehow like climbing not a mountain, but a rough rock. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? It's, of course, difficult to ask her about last night, to know what happened to her when she saw the mother and the dead son. And now there are clouds in the sky covering the sun. Here, everything seems gloomy, though not the sun. But when it's covered by clouds, it causes fear and sadness for some of the inside crowds. Should I ask her about our children, or are they just her imagination? Do I have any agnation or descendants who look for their agnation? If I say anything, I may jeopardize her life. No, I can't. She is my fragile, lovely wife. But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head grown slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. Gosh, the prophet John the Baptist, who baptized Jesus, is killed since the stepdaughter of a mighty king asks for his head and wants her wishes to be fulfilled. For her, it's the matter to see his head on a platter. But what is Prufrock trying to say? He may not be sorry for John, the prophet, or he may be sorry for himself. Though by reading this, I feel sorry now for myself, even for her. We have wept and fasted, wept and prayed together. It's not a matter of if or something or whether. We desperately depend on one another, and I want her to be with me forever and ever. I wait for her to appear like the queen of my kingdom. When she's absent, my poems all appear like texts with no rhythm. She is the melody of my breath and can be the cause of my death. If one day I feel she does not belong any more to the Mother Earth. She is like dew on the young, beautiful red flowers, whose aroma spreads through the time of infinite hours. She is my Roman goddess of love, my Venus, when I do not belong to the earth but to Venus, the planet which is second in order of distance from the sun, between Earth and Mercury. It's where our love remains a mystery, where love has two meanings, one literally, the other literary, though I am sure she always prefers the literal meaning to the literary. And now she appears.
Hello, the idiot Eliot lover.
I, the zealous lover of the Hungarian-American theoretical physicist Eugene Wigner.
He was not just a physicist, he was also an engineer and a mathematician.
But the three occupy the same place of one's cognition.
Like a novelist, a poet, and an essayist?
Yes, though I don't think a physicist can be a novelist. And then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. I can also feel my best days are behind me, like a candle that flickers and goes out. And I am not sure if I can make the candle burn again. I have doubt. I have doubt. There was a time when I had a butler helping me to do things while I was feeling that, for my queen, I am the king of kings. No one now holds my coat, as I don't have any house to enter, and the main servant can't be anyone's mentor. But I can deeply feel Eliot's footman, since he's the eternal footman, or Death himself, who comes to take away the life of Prufrock, the poor man. And Prufrock is honest enough to confess that he's afraid, and I am afraid. I'm afraid. Afraid of death, afraid of losing her and not being able to remember, like remembering our supposed children. Were they Christian? Did they believe in any God? Which one was shot? Was he like me, an agnostic? Was his death prognostic? Can I ask my queen? Should I ask her, or should I scream?
Will we go tonight?
She abruptly asks. Are you sure you want to go again?
Yes, we still seem to be sane.
Are we supposed not to be so?
No, but you know.
I know what?
That I look like a nut.
Who has said that, darling?
The doctor says that the symptom of the illness seems to be alarming.
Doctors are professional in making many unsupported claims.
Come on, dear. I'm a scientist, not a literary person.
So, give me one convincing reason.
Alzheimer's.
This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. I hate it. She is crazily in love with scientific nomenclatures related to human beings or the so-called science-bound natures. We are insanely wise and critical thinkers. Can't she see she can still deal with numbers and figures? Can't she see I can read poetry while I know many things about prosody? Can't she see we still think, plan, and know how to do what we like? I am sick and tired of this word, Alzheimer's. We are not sick. We don't suffer from Alzheimer's. Do you get what I say?
Okay. Which month is it, darling? April, June, or May?
You're confusing me. Who cares about the calendar when we feel gay?
Then, based on what you say, can I say any month is May?
She asks while she smiles, and then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. Then I continue reading the love song while she listens to me. And would it have been worth it after all, after the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me? Would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question?
You can feel that there's a trick here. Time in the poem plays tricks.
She says it. Sure, but to see that he loses his chance to do an important thing, you should be a poet.
You don't need to be a poet. He's lazy since he doubts if it would have been worth it.
Yep, you're right. He is thinking about biting off the matter.
Don't you get sick and tired of this idle chatter?
No, it's not just chatter. He has to roll it towards some overwhelming question.
What is that goddamn question?
I don't know.
Alzheimer's.
This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. No, of course, it's not Alzheimer's. I'm trying to be just an admirer.
Admirer of what? Your interpretation?
No, admirer of the fact that we don't know about the author's intention.
But I know, dear. He's trying to make you understand that you have Alzheimer's.
She says it teasingly but lovingly. We don't have I say, embarrassed.
I didn't say we. I said you have.
And then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. To say, I am Lazarus come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all. I wish I could be Lazarus, a poor man who, in contrast to Dives, goes to paradise.
Which paradise? Milton's paradise?
She suddenly asks. No, that one is lost.
The one for the poor, since a rich person like Dives goes to hell and is lost.
Is he the one who gets back to earth as it's in the Bible?
No, what you say is a libel.
Dives asks the prophet Abraham to send Lazarus back to the earth.
What for? Especially after his death.
To tell his brothers to rectify their errors and compensate for the wrongdoing.
A kind of undoing?
Yep, since if they do not do that, they may end up in hell.
And then?
Then Abraham says, no way, he can't get back again.
Why doesn't he accept?
When all the prophets couldn't make them good people, one dead person cannot affect.
How did Abraham know that? Maybe he could have saved at least one brother.
He seems to be a prophet. Apparently, a prophet knows about the future.
Irony again, eh? Sarcastic and agnostic language.
That's why being a poet is an advantage.
Is it?
Sure it is. And don't forget your husband is a crazy poet.
I'm sure about the adjective you use for the poets, though you may not be a real poet.
And then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. Now I'm wondering why Dante can get back from hell, but Lazarus can't. Why Dante has the chance to warn his people about sin, but for his brothers, Lazarus can't. Why Eliot has an allusion to Lazarus who cannot get back to earth. Does he believe in no life after death? And why Prufrock is neither Lazarus nor Dante, and he's more like Dives, the cursed. He can't escape his situation, which is the worst.
Will we go tonight again?
Like always, she abruptly asks. Yes, but with our new masks.
But they are our gifts for Christmas.
Aren't we supposed to play like children?
No, like our grandchildren.
Again, it causes me to force myself to think, to make a kind of link. Whose grandchildren is she talking about?
Aren't you thinking aloud? Maybe still you're in the world of Eliot.
Am I? Did you hear what I said? I was thinking about a child who was delicate.
No, you were thinking about our grandchildren.
Whose grandchildren? Listen.
No, you listen, the old so-called poet. I am sick and tired of all your books.
What? Books are mental hooks.
And I hate to be crazily mentally hooked.
But you also read books about physics, don't you?
Yes, I too.
So, what is this complaint about?
Nothing. I just want to let it out.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling. Sometimes I'm very selfish.
Sometimes?
No, I hereby formally announce I am selfish most of the time. And then we both laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence.
It's time for medication,
one of the nurses announces. Let's go, darling, before we hear more of their harsh and noisy voices. I know she likes neither their voices nor their faces.
It's a pity we don't have any choices.
She says it while her eyes are like faded roses. Yep, we should unwillingly let them make us lose our senses. Then I thought she's right in complaining that my language has only literary uses.
I hate these bitches.
Darling, you're a physicist.
I was, but now I'm an artist.
But artists are not impolite.
Oh, really? But sorry, I know many poets who use dirty language with delight.
She then continued as I was thinking about something better for discussion to provide.
Of course, they have some words devoted to intercourse and used for the midnight.
I was now feeling a little bit uptight. Are you angry with me, my queen?
Ha ha! What a queen! An imprisoned 14th century queen who should have her vaccine.
I could feel she was too much anxious. We were both lost. Then we went to the big hall for the so-called treatment, or in reality what is considered maltreatment. This process has become too frequent, and in what they do, there is no achievement, though I don't really know what they really look for. Whatever it is, we all are tired, and with all our heart and mind we abhor.
Okay, Mr. Nice, it's your turn.
What do I earn? The nurse angrily shouted and said,
Nothing unless you want us to make you burn.
What a terrifying language, but not for Mr. Nice, who's always nice to all of us.
Now it's your turn, Mr. So-called poet professor.
My queen could not tolerate that and said,
Shut up! He's a real poet and a full professor.
The nurse looked at her and replied impolitely,
Oh, a real full professor.
Everyone was laughing now, and I again felt embarrassed. And then we both didn't laugh this time, and a pause, and then a long silence.
Put your head on a pillow, Mrs. Wife of Food Professor,
the nurse says mockingly. If one settling a pillow by her head should say, That is not what I meant at all, that is not it at all. Prufrock can now be happy that he didn't risk it, since it would not have been worth it. But why does the woman with the pillow think she has been misunderstood? We don't know, but we know Prufrock is afraid of being rejected, while to her side he stood. How about me? I think I should. This woman is all that I have, and she's too good to be treated like this. And if I miss, hiss. I never missed the only person I chose as my partner and dared to kiss her lips in the library of the university, where it could be considered perversity. Bang, bang, bang. A young lady is hitting her head on the wall. She is beautiful and attractively tall. I am astonished by her beauty, but why does she do so? I ask everyone, and all seem not to know. One of the nurses slaps her face and then tries to erase her tears, her pearls. Now, almost everyone is afraid, especially the girls. Someone says, Why do you slap the beauty? Are you the Beast? I always thought that Beauty and the Beast was a movie and can't be real, at least. But now, in front of me, there is a lost beauty, sitting in a corner with her booty. She is coldly quivering, and like the light of a candle she is flickering. I approach her, offer to cover her with my queen's shawl, an Arabian shawl we bought from Oman in a very big mall. She takes it, and then I ask for a pillow, which is immediately brought by a fellow. Then I put it on my knee and ask her to place her head on it. She does it with her legs twisted towards her heart, like a frightened small rabbit. Then I ask her what happened to her, and she frowns and says,
Don't ask again, never ever.
Then she cries, cries, and cries. But as if a magic lantern threw the nerves in patterns on a screen, would it have been worthwhile if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl and turning toward the window, should say, That is not it at all. That is not what I meant at all. Now I feel in typical Prufrock fashion, words sound disheartening, as if in the dark, into one's nerves they're bumping. Then I feel sorry for both of us in her confused presence. And then we both do not laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. While her head is on my knee and I let her sleep, I open my book and read, but she asks with what my mind I feed. I don't know what I should say, because young people nowadays are motion-oriented, They like to see movies, fast movements, mobility, motility, and their velocity tempted. I doubt if she likes literature in general and poetry specifically, and while I'm hesitating to talk, she says,
"Read it loudly."
"But it's a poem," I say dubiously.
"Okay, read it."
She says unflinchingly. Without asking whether I should read from the beginning or where I am, I read it to her like a lullaby sung by a mother. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. I'm an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse, at times indeed almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool. She softly asks if it is Shakespeare, and I tell her that it is Eliot, with a reference to Shakespeare. I like to ask her if she likes poetry, but she looks into my eyes, and with a smile on her lips, she says she feels hungry. Mr. Nice, who is always available to help, gives her some bread and a little honey. She thanks and starts eating voraciously. She is now bursting with vitality. Then while she eats, like someone after a starvation diet, she tells me that she knows about Claudius and Hamlet's father, or King Hamlet, but I wonder if she knows anything about Prufrock, and how he's like Hamlet, in being an indecisive chap. For such people, there's always a tragic trap, waiting for them like a crab. Not the one, of course, Prufrock wishes to be like, but the one that makes you its target. Like Prufrock, Hamlet talks too much, while disastrous issues he seems to touch. To be or not to be, that is the question. That sounds to be even an overwhelming question. But Prufrock has already decided on that question. He was not meant to be. Prufrock compares himself, in the play, to a minor character, one of the king's attendants, and not, for instance, a senator or a barrister. I think he's talking about Polonius, father of Ophelia, who seems to be sad, with no smile like Mona Lisa. Polonius is eloquent in speaking and in using fancy words, high sentence, but he is not a prince, and at the end he is a sort of dunce. Oh my goodness, I am the same, a professor of fancy world who is dumb in front of his queen, and that's a shame. A professor of fancy words who is dumb in front of his queen, and that's a shame. As Prufrock suggests, he's almost ridiculous, and almost like the fool. But I can see how much it's difficult for him to confess he's an easy tool.
"Why did you stop reading?"
She asks. Because you were eating, as if I was doing multitasks.
"But I was listening to you. Come on. You said it was about an idiot."
No, I didn't say that. I said the poet is Thomas Stearns Eliot.
Okay, the names are not important. What they say makes difference.
You listened to a part I read which was in the middle of the poem. Any inference?
Too soon to make an inference. What's your job?
I am a flop.
Haha, a complete failure.
She laughs aloud. So you should be a brain. Let me then ask my question again, if I'm allowed. I raised my left eyebrow.
Disapproved.
I think so, but I can't deny that I am also amused.
By what?
By seeing you're smart.
Am I?
Yes, and a little amazingly shy.
Amazingly shy. Why?
Because between the color of your face and your eyes, there is a strong tie.
Listen, get away from me. You're a psychologist. I hate you.
No, that's not true.
Then who are you? Can you imagine that he has no clue?
My queen interrupted, and I told her so.
How do you know that? I know it. And even I know he has lost his children and his cat.
My cat? Did I have any cat?
So, you know each other? For a long time. Almost a never-ending life. Are you his wife? Yes. And sometimes a knife. A knife? Yes. To stab and kill all of his friends.
Who are his friends?
His books.
So, you're going to destroy his books by hook or by crook?
She says it while she smiles.
Yes. And he can't remember anything.
Here I interrupt and try to say something better about myself. I can't remember since she is my queen, and I've never been his king. The girl looks at me in a surprising way when my queen adds,
No, he can't remember, because he has Alzheimer's.
This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. And then we three laugh, and a pause, and then a long silence. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Though like Prufrock I'm good at denying the facts, I can't believe I am still young. This is a bitter fact, and many times nowadays I make a slip of the tongue. I feel also I have a weak lung. Sometimes I lose the container's bung. Even my breasts, like an old woman's, are well hung. And I have a back, oh, a back, with disc degeneration, which is a hunch. But there's something about the young girl for whom I don't have a hunch. She is like someone, and she is not. She serves a sort of vague and unnerving thought. She is familiar in a defamiliarizing way, and from her look and her voice nothing can I obtain. She looks like someone in my past, a similarity which makes me aghast. Who is she? Why is she so carefree? What is this feeling I have which is fatherly? Can I ask her to drink together another cup of tea? Suddenly, my queen asks me,
Did you notice how similar she is to our daughter?
Our daughter? Which daughter?
Come on, old man. The one we lost in the earthquake.
I can't remember. Please stop it, for God's sake.
Okay, darling. One day before my death, you may remember everything.
First, you're not going to die, and second, I don't have to remember anything.
Do you still believe that they are my imagination and stories?
I think so, and I don't know anything about these bodies.
Do you want to know what happened to her?
Do you know that? Of course, I want to know her better.
Have you asked yourself why you're so interested in this young lady?
Why should I? She's nice, and I want to know what happened to this baby.
She lost her parents, the opposite of what we experienced.
Please stop pushing me again. I have no visions.
Why do you like to live with Alzheimer's?
Stop using this disgusting word. I don't have Alzheimer's. This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. And then we didn't laugh this time, and a pause, and then a long silence. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. Sure, it was a kind of hippie style at Prufrock's time to part the hair behind. But how about now? Can I do it for my queen, or does she consider it unrefined? To be or not to be, that's the question. And I can't understand why someone should not dare to eat a peach. Is it indigestion? And why wear white flannel trousers and walk upon a beach? Is it a sign of obsession? The human being is complicated, Mr. Thomas, isn't he? He is, while still his question is to be or not to be. In spite of all this, the idea of walking upon the beach comes from his interest in being a crab, probably to grab, something he has not been successful so far to catch. But we see, rather than being a crab, this time he has a totally different feeling. I have heard the mermaids singing each to each. What? Does the guy who can't keep track of time use the past perfect in his speech? He is lucky, since he's not accused by my queen to have Alzheimer's. This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. I hate it. I remember everything, unless I don't want to remember what should be remembered. I tried hard to disremember all the remembering. I did it. I endeavored. I still have self-confidence and don't feel like Prufrock. I do not think that they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back when the wind blows the water white and black. What a pity. Even the mermaids won't sing to him. Absolute lack of self-confidence, though with them he may later swim. These mermaids are surfing on the waves with their tails, but there is something disturbing. These waves have white hair. This makes us think about senility, of which we don't like, of course, to be aware.
Darling, it's night. We should go before it becomes late.
Are you sure you want to go, my queen? Aren't you afraid?
Afraid of what? We're doing it every night.
All right.
I am taking my camera.
Why camera?
It's Christmas. Maybe we see Santa.
Is it? How about taking some scotch and soda?
Come on, don't be silly. We don't have alcohol here.
Okay, then let me take my Eliot, dear.
For God's sake, once in your life put all the literature aside.
I can't. I am tied.
Okay, the tired man, I can't change you. Let's go.
Let's go, but you should follow, and we go very slow.
I hate your ego.
Accusation. Mine is 0. We slyly pass under the cut fence and arrive at the place. We have to wait. No one is there. Is it here or there? Why am I using there as an adverb of place? Is there anything wrong with my grammar, or is there something wrong with the space? I'd rather call it there and not here. I like Eliot, but now not Shakespeare. The writer of many tragedies with an everlasting question of to be or not to be. I want her to be, with the very existing me, which also stands as the initial letters of our name. You can guess yourself, Martin, for example, and Elena, or midnight and shame. Whatever the name, she is my queen. This is what she means, and she will mean, a real queen. Tonight I am shaking, and I don't know why. I feel frightened, but I like to deny. Tonight is not like the other night. Something creepy is moving through this space, which sounds like a plight. Tonight, Eliot can't be with me as he was. I am on Earth, but I can feel the heaviness of Mars. Tonight, the dead here are not dead. They appear as too much alive instead. Tonight is a different night, a heterogeneously different night. The dead are in the spotlight. Tonight, I feel something is wrong, something which is very strong.
Look, a lady is coming.
My queen, I can't see anything.
Look at here. Here, just here.
It's not here, darling. It's there.
Yuck. Here or there makes no difference. Look at the lady.
I look at her, and she seems to be very heartbroken. My queen, she is like the other ladies.
She is not, and she is in her 60s.
She is talking as if she doesn't have teeth.
That's not the point, man. She looks like me.
You're right regarding her age and a little bit her face, but I doubt about her mentality.
Do you mean she's crazy?
Maybe. And then we both laugh silently, and a pause, and then a long silence. Then she suddenly says,
But darling, aren't we happy that we're a crazy, educated couple in an asylum?
"We're not in an asylum.
Then what kind of relationship do we have with them?
They are our friends."
All the doctors and nurses?
"Yes, all those faces."
Are you making fun of me?
"No, not really.
So you believe we're not crazy?
No, even though in understanding you make me think I am really lazy."
Okay, but tell me why we're always separated at nights.
"There are certain reasons, like not having fights."
No, you don't want to accept that you have Alzheimer's.
This is a new word she has learned recently, and she likes to repeat. The lady now is looking at an old man and says to the young man,
He is my true man, my birdman, but then he transformed into my snowman.
Then she cried, and while she was throwing herself onto his dead body, my queen fainted. I was afraid, frightened to my bones. I shouted while asking for help, and the two were standing there like stones. I shouted and cried and shouted and cried and asked for help. The young man came and checked her pulse on her wrist, while the old lady yelled, "God, she got back. She is my baby." I embraced her, hugged her, and kissed her face. It was the power of what people may regard as divine grace. And while I was happy, the young man asked, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, what can I say?" "What can you say? Tell me, what the hell are you doing here? This is not a cafe." "You're right, but we made a mistake and lost our way." It was the silliest thing that can ever be said. The young man knows where we have come from, and then calls the guard. They take us through the yards, and then to our horizontally wide, cold and benumbed construction. Then we are taken to our separated rooms in frustration. I am again in my lonely room, and I don't know if she smiles or cries. Here we're a couple, but look like a human slice. I feel bad about what happened, and while I am reviewing the event and trying to recall, there are lots of noises in the hall. Screaming, shouting, crying, any kind of noise and all. I jump out. Apparently, a lady is not okay, as they hear it through an emergency phone. They bring her to the place where we are, and I am like a stone. Then I fall and hit my head against the wall while she says,
Don't do that, my king. Please don't.
While her eyes are filled with tears. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us and we drown. I think it's time. God, all these days I pretended to have Alzheimer's. Like a staunch fighter. I tried to avoid letting her talk about things which make her life worse. I pretended so much so that now I believe I can't remember even my verse. It's not fair. It's not fair, my queen, to leave me alone. And I decided to tell her that she should not leave me under this goddamn dome. But before I can say anything, she femininely dies. Not once. Many, many times. She dies. She dies. She dies. And I was trying, I think, to write a poem which never dies. But now I think, it's also my time. Is it, or is it not? I think it is not. But it sounds, I think, yes, I think it's my time. What is the use of life after she has died? nothing, I think. And I think I'm going to die. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to die while I remember all the things I have denied. My children, my cat, the earthquake, our life.